My name is William Maroney, and this is my final exam report. So the experiment that I put together for this project was I made a little Google survey and I just had an image of a cat on there. And the question I'm asking respondents is, how cute do you think this cat is? And I've had them rank it on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being not cute at all and 10 being extremely cute. And the way I collected my data was just walking around campus asking people that I saw to fill out the survey on my phone. I collected 15 samples from each of my groups, and my 2 groups were male respondents and female respondents. And the reason I only collected 15 samples is simply because of the fact that it was just me walking around campus collecting data. I knew that I probably wouldn't collect enough samples to ensure a normal distribution. So I chose to collect 15 from each group, have an overall sample size of 30, and then just assume a normal distribution to continue my analysis. So that's my reasoning behind that. And my hypothesis with this analysis was that HO equals 0 and H1 does not equal 0. So I'm essentially testing to see if there's a statistically significant difference in the true mean response value of the 2 groups. And because of that, I conducted my test using a 2-sample hypothesis test for means. And the results of my analysis were a p-value of 0.0238 and a confidence interval of -3.0952 to -0.2381. And I conducted this test at a confidence level of 95% with an alpha level of 0.05. So because my p-value is less than my alpha level of 0.05, I have statistically significant evidence to reject the null hypothesis that gender does not have an effect on the true mean response value to the question. So my final conclusion with this analysis is that we can say with a 95% confidence level that the true mean response value to the question about the cat's cuteness differs by between 3.0952 and 0.2381 points when comparing respondents from the female group to those from the male group. So that's the conclusion to my hypothesis test that I originally conducted for this experiment. But I wanted to further interpret my confidence interval, and I noticed that since it's negative on both sides, we can interpret it to mean that the true mean response value from group 1 is less than that of group 2. And in this case, my group 1 is my male group, group 2 is my female group. So I just wanted to further prove that to myself. So I conducted a second hypothesis test and used all the same data numbers and just changed my alternative hypothesis. Instead of having it H1 does not equal 0, I changed it to H1 is less than 0. And that hypothesis test gave me a p-value of 0.0119, which is also less than our alpha level. So that hypothesis test gives us statistically significant data to prove that the true mean response value from group 1, my male group, is in fact less than that of my female group. So I just did that test on my own after finding my original conclusion, my original conclusion basically told me there is a statistically significant difference, and then that second hypothesis test helped me figure out what is that difference. So essentially it just helps me realize that group 1 has a lower true mean response value than group 2 does. And after performing this hypothesis test and getting this conclusion, I found it interesting because I feel like there's an existing stereotype out there that women in general, I suppose, find animals cuter or kind of are more attracted to or more likely to be, accepting of like a house pet. Have a stronger bond to them, I suppose, would be another way to put it. But I'm not saying I necessarily believe that stereotype. It's just something I feel exists out there, and that, I've heard people say that or say things that align with that belief before. But regardless of that, the results of my hypothesis test absolutely kind of reinforce that belief that women on average find animals cuter. And obviously, I mean, that's a stretch because this specific test was asking about a specific image of a cat, so you can't really generalize and say this applies to all animals. But I just found it interesting because I think it somewhat aligns with that stereotype that's out there, and somewhat supports it, which I don't necessarily believe in that stereotype, but I did find my results interesting because of that. And yeah, that was my experiment and that's what I found. So thank you.